Hello, hello, CraftingMantis here, and welcome back to another episode of Building with Mantis. So today we are going to be doing things a little bit different, as you can tell. This is not vanilla Minecraft. We are actually using the Realm of Aston texture pack because this is going to be a two-part series. And the build that I'm going to be showing in the tutorial in the second part was actually built in the Realm of Aston texture pack. So that is what we're going to be using for, both videos. And, so you'll end up having to figure out either, a different color palette for what is going to be coming, or you can end up, downloading the Realm of Aston texture pack, and I'll have a link down in the description. Now, also in the description, you'll end up finding some timestamps, so if you want to go back to different parts of the, different steps, then you can go ahead and do that. Now, today, we are going to be learning how to build big builds in 6 easy steps. So I'm going to go ahead and display the 6 easy steps on the screen now. And with those, as you can see, we are going to be stepping through each one of them, going from, finding your inspiration and going all the way down to actually planning out the entire build. So I'm going to be showing you how to go from this to this. And so let's go ahead and get started. Step 1, find your inspiration. Now, one of my favorite things to do in terms of getting inspiration for, builds and stuff is to actually use the Google image search. So as you can see, I have the Taj Mahal up here, and this was my inspiration for the Packed Ice Palace on the Realm of Aston. So as you can see, we got, domes that, are up on top, the 4 towers around it. But you can also see that it doesn't look, the Packed Ice Palace doesn't look anything like the actual Taj Mahal. But Google Images, they have some really great stuff that you can end up, coming in and, checking out. Like rice fields, this was another search that I had done here recently, looking at, the terraced fields and stuff that they do a lot of times with the actual, rice fields. So this is, Google image search is definitely one of, a huge resources you can end up using in order to find inspiration. You may find something else also in like real life, say that you end up, walking by a building and you think it looks really cool. Take a picture of it, figure out how you can actually build it in Minecraft and stuff. And so, you could pretty much, get it from anywhere, from paintings, from, reading a book, and kind of going from the description, that they give within the book for the building. But yeah, so this is step 1, is to find what your inspiration is for your build so that you can then start the actual planning process. Step 2, determine the location and the general size of the outer bounds of your build. Now, if you're not building in a flat area, what you'll want to do is to kind of determine where the outer edges are going to be for your build. That way you kind of get an idea of, where, how far out you can end up planning. And this kind of, moves into step 3, or well, this will move into step 4. Next step is a little bit different than, actually figuring out the area that you're going to end up building in. But yeah, so you can end up using like wool or something that's going to stand out so that you can kind of get a general idea. So like this right here, this could end up being a, like a little house that kind of ends up going into the hill. And this gives you an idea of where you're going to be, at the very, very furthest going to end up building. Now, if you are going to be building on something flat, you could end up going into, like a creative world, or, something like that, and actually, lay it out on a super flat world, which is what I did for the Packed Ice Palace. We were given a plot which was 68 by 68, and so I just created a super flat world and ended up laying out the base for, for the actual build. And so once you figure out where you're going to end up building, not just where you're going to build, but also like, how big your bounding box is going to be basically for your build. We can then move on to step 3. Step 3, determine the general color palette for your build. Now with the color palette, it's just basically laying down a set of blocks that you think will end up going well with, with your build. Now these are the beginning color palettes that I was working with in terms of the packed ice palace that, that I had built. And all you do is you just kind of, figure out, it's like, okay, I kind of want to go with a, like a certain color. So for this particular one, we started out with the packed ice. So we determined, okay, this is what, what we are going to be building around. And so from there, what can we add to this in order to, really match with things? And so you end up just kind of playing around with different blocks and try to figure out what works best together. Now, one of the things that, I usually like doing is making sure that we actually have at least a single block that has like slabs or, stairs and stuff like that. That way you can end up getting a little bit more detail, or, you can end up creating, rounder shapes and stuff like that. So that is step 3. And so we can move on to step 4. Step 4, figure out the general footprint of the building. Now here we have the general footprint for the packed ice palace. And as you can see, just kind of laid out what I thought was going to be where the build was going to end up sitting. Now, in order to come to this point here, I ended up going through about 2 to 3 iterations in terms of, just trying to figure out how I wanted the actual build to sit. And so originally it ended up starting out as, just a square, and then I cut off the corners, was thinking about, doing something round. And this is what I had finally come up with. So within the area that you are going to be, you've kind of put your bounding box. You want to sit and kind of figure out, it's like, okay, where are my big pieces going to go? And this isn't permanent. This is something that, you can end up doing, say, in like dirt to make it a little bit easier to clean up, or to adjust things as you are moving, through the next couple of steps. So this right here, this allows you to kind of visualize where you're going to be going with this. And so the next step is actually to start going up. And so we'll move forward. Step 5, plan your build with wireframes. So as you can see here, this is kind of the shape of what I had as I was planning the packed ice palace. And so when I'm talking about wireframes, it is just basically building the general shape of what you want in order to kind of judge like different size and stuff. Because as you can see, you can get a really good idea from the ground as to, how it's going to end up looking once it is fully filled in and stuff. So this kind of allows you to plan out, like the height of your build, how big it's going to be, how the different parts kind of, interact with each other. So like right up here, as you can see, we've got the 4 little domes and the really big dome in the center. And so it allows you to see, what's kind of space you have in order to play around with, where you need to add additional elements, where, you need to kind of move stuff around. And, because like with these ones here, I ended up, with different sizes of them, just kind of playing around until I found the ones that, that I really liked, especially compared to what the center one was. Same way with, with the original height of the walls. Because when I was originally planning it, I was thinking, okay, well, I'm going to have a height of 7 for the first floor, and then another height of 7 for the upper floor. And I realized that's not going to work. It just, I built up 7 tall, and it's like, for how big the build is, 7 is not going to work in terms of, how tall it needs to be. And this right here saves you a lot of time and a lot of sweat and a lot of tears, because if you figure out that, oh, I need to make my wall 11 tall instead of 7, before you build all of it, you don't have to tear it all down again in order to actually redo it. With this, you take down some, some dirt tiles and stuff like that, and you can fix it really easy. So once you end up getting into, once you finish your wireframes for the build and you've kind of finalized what you want to do in terms of, the size and stuff, you then move into the final step. Step 6, plan your details and finalize your palette. So in the very last step, what you need to do is to go through and kind of, fill in your actual wireframe. So if we come over here, you can see where I have the wireframe already put into place, and I wanted to make sure that I had enough room to add in details, and so I ended up making sure that I had 3 here in order to kind of, build up inside. And so I filled in the walls, and then from there I started adding in the different details of the actual wall, and I recreated here kind of the steps I had gone through. So this was the original plan for, for the walls. And I had shared this picture, and the contrast between, like the birch and the end stone really, seemed to work well. And so I went this way. I went a little bit too far on this one. And then found a happy medium with this design right here, which is the one that I ended up going with for the actual palace. And so I knew that on this side I could end up fitting it in here. And so I did, I did the same design, but put it on a diagonal on this side. And then I figured, some design here, played around with it a whole bunch. And then I ended up figuring out this design here. And since I had figured out what I wanted to do down here on the bottom, I then moved up here and kind of recreated it, but with a little less detail. So as you can see, we've only got, one here with the wall in, in the back. And, and then we had even less detail that, we could do with these smaller ones here. But the pillars and stuff, they stayed the same. So the domes, we have the nether brick, and then, the glass on top. And then with the smaller domes, I ended up not doing the support structure because, they didn't really need to have, the supports. And so, yeah, and then, after I got all those in, I started adding in the little details like, the lanterns and the flower pots, and putting in the floors, trying to figure out, okay, pathways. That's why I ended up using these. These are kind of pathways in between the different buildings and around to the outside. And then we've got, this here. And then from there, started working on, adding, okay, how do we get up here? And so came up with a spiral staircase and added in, a little bit of the hanging flower pots and stuff. So, once you get the outside built, then you can start moving on the inside and actually start adding in, the different details to, to the interior of, of the build. So yeah, so that is my planning process from, start to finish on, how I build large builds. So I definitely hope that you guys have enjoyed this. And then if you have any questions or anything like that, definitely feel free to leave a comment down below. And I'll try to, get into as much detail as I can, in order to help you guys out in terms of planning your own big builds. So I definitely hope that you guys have enjoyed this. And if you did, definitely hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, click the Mantis icon to subscribe, then hit the bell button to get notified when I put out additional content. Want to check out more of my videos? Try the one on the left, or you could check out the playlist on the right. That's it for now, but I'll see you guys in the next episode.